Russia treacherously attacked Ukraine in February of 2022. For the last 3 years, the world has seen the bloodshed, waves of Ukrainian refugees running away from war, Russians fleeing the regime in millions, Russian economy landsliding, Ukrainian cities razed, and hundreds of thousands of people getting killed. The world has been asking when this useless criminal war will stop. Is the end near? I think I have a pretty good idea now. And do I have some news for you today? Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia. This is the YouTube channel where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. No lies, BS, or propaganda. Only truth, common sense, and logic. And some emotions because I am a human being after all. When? That's the question everyone is asking now. Has been asking for quite some time. When? When this madness will end? When people stop getting killed? When peace will end? I might have the answer. I sure hope that I am wrong. If you follow my channel Inside Russia, you have noticed that in the last 3 months or so, I haven't done much analysis and forecasting on how things would turn out politically for Russia and Ukraine after Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States. There were much discussions and different experts were making their forecasts, but I stayed away. My reason for staying away was simple. I didn't know anything about the upcoming months and events. No one knew. To analyze and forecast, you need to have information. You need to know players, their reasons and their intentions, their goals. You need to have at least some foundation for your analysis. And if you have nothing, it's not analysis and forecasting, it's guessing. And I don't like to guess. I consider guessing cheap talk, and I do my best to walk the walk. I knew two things: that Vladimir Putin was cautious of Donald Trump, and I take a liberty to say that he even had a little bit of fear. They were rare small signs of such fear here and there. For example, the way Putin called Trump in November of 2024 and congratulated on becoming the president, then he congratulated on becoming getting inaugurated. It's not that he called, it's how he called. And, some other signs. I also knew that Donald Trump is unpredictable and a transactional person. He is easily influenced by his inner circle and changes his decisions on the fly. He's done that many times. So knowing just that, unlike many other people, I stayed away from this type of discussion, forecasting what was to come. On January 13th, right before Donald Trump was inaugurated, I filmed a video with fears and hopes of what might come. The video is called "What Does Putin Really Want from Ukraine?" Please watch a part of it, and after this live stream ends, I am asking you to watch the entire video. You will find some answers to today, what's going on today, there. Now, check this out. And this is what he's going to be trying to do. Donald Trump and the United States of America have the upper hand in the upcoming negotiations. American military-industrial complex is getting second life, so to speak, is getting revived. And a lot of countries are turning to the USA to buy advanced weapons. Russia has depleted its resources and cannot go like this, doing whatever it's doing for much longer. So Trump has an upper hand. Vladimir Putin is going to try to outslay him. Vladimir Putin wants Ukraine, truly wants Ukraine, without guarantees for peace. And he wants Ukraine in a situation where Ukrainian society, Ukrainian people fight over the status of the territories that Russia occupies and will occupy, most likely. This is what Vladimir Putin truly wants from Ukraine now, and this is what he hopes for the upcoming negotiations to achieve. Donald Trump should watch out, as Vladimir Putin is so much more experienced than Donald Trump. He's been in power, fighting off the attempts to take him down for 24 years now. Vladimir Putin, I believe, he can wrap Trump around his finger. I hope that Putin will not be able to do that. He will not be able to mislead the American people, the American politicians involved in the deal, perhaps the European politicians. I hope that Donald Trump proves to be the deal maker, the master deal maker he has been telling everyone that he is. I hope that Ukraine will get firm guarantees for peace. And I hope that this upcoming peace treaty will not be a raw deal for Ukraine. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Donald Trump and the USA had an upper hand in the upcoming peace negotiations. The upper hand was the financial might of America, the world united behind the USA, and anonymous support of Ukraine in the military-industrial complex on the rise. Vladimir Putin and Russia, on the other hand, were in a very weak position. Declining economy, depleting resources, weak army, the international sanctions that finally started to work, and applying pressure on Russia. A Russian territory near Kursk occupied by the Ukrainian armed forces, and lack of victories in Ukraine, lack of advancements, and most importantly, nothing to show to the world and to Russian people for invading Ukraine and waging the war for 3 years, destroying both countries and killing hundreds of thousands of people. Putin had nothing to show, only losses. Loss after loss after loss. And Donald Trump, all he had to do was to flex muscles and apply more pressure on Putin. He certainly was in the right position to do so. I think that Donald Trump didn't even have to actually apply more pressure. The previous administration did a fairly good job doing that. Donald Trump just needed to show his intentions to apply more pressure, intentions to escalate economically. And the Russians were trembling. And that was when we were the position where we were standing in January. The entire world was standing in January. Much has happened in the last 3 months. I have enough information and data now to form an opinion of what's going to happen between Russia and Ukraine, both in the short and in the long run. Before I share that information with you, I would like to take this opportunity and thank you, everyone who is a part of Inside Russia community. Thank you for watching, for liking, for commenting, for interacting, for messages with good words, good intentions, good support and good praises for praying along with me and for your love. Thank you for buying me coffees at buymecoffee.com, for Patreon and PayPal. I give you a promise that despite being demonetized by Google for my stand against Russian government, I will continue telling you the truth. You have my word on that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, after the inauguration, Donald Trump had all the aces in his hands. And I think he well understood that the right language to speak with Vladimir Putin was the language of the position of strength. That's the only language Vladimir Putin really understands and reacts to. And to my shock, Donald Trump took a completely different approach. First, he showed that he understood the conflict between Russia and Ukraine very little. He showed very little understanding by saying he would be asking Saudi Arabia and OPEC countries to lower the price of oil, which would lead to the immediate end of Russian-Ukrainian war. That was said by Donald Trump on January 13th. Obviously, lower oil prices would not stop the war immediately. And we are witnessing it right now. The price of oil has dropped a great deal, but the war is still going on. Then Donald Trump started appeasing Vladimir Putin. That I certainly did not expect that. Donald Trump, the mighty powerful guy, the strong guy, the master of the deal, called Vladimir Putin twice. The first telephone call marked a turning point, and in my opinion, that was a milestone. It was comparable could be compared in significance to key battles that Russia fought in 3 years. That phone call showed the approach Donald Trump was taking towards Vladimir Putin and Russia. He wasn't talking from the position of strength, from the position of power that he had, but from the position of asking. He was asking for negotiations. He was asking for peace. He was asking for a ceasefire. He was asking to stop the war. Everything that's followed since that phone call on January 7th has proved that the initial approach of Vladimir Putin was going on. Another telephone call happened on February 12th when both presidents discussed the past cooperation of two countries in World War II, potential cooperation in the future between the countries. And Donald Trump called Russia a great country. And Vladimir Putin called America a great country too. The propaganda, Russian propaganda, started rejoicing. Russian markets reacted by rallying on the rumors that the sanctions would soon be dropped, and Donald Trump was proclaimed a genius of geopolitics and the savior of Russia by Russian propaganda and by many Russian officials. Then there was pressure in Ukraine by Donald Trump and his team. At first it was the requirement to sign the rare earth deal. Then Vladimir Zelensky was kicked out of the White House. Then the USA started pushing its NATO allies and partners to the point that the European countries are now discussing forming new independent military unions. Right after that White House visit, the USA stopped supplying Ukraine with intelligence data gathered in the air by specialized planes, flying raiders. And Russia used that moment, used that opportunity to execute one of the biggest, deadliest airstrikes on Ukrainian cities. Oh, that was a slap in the face of Trump. And everyone noticed. And even Donald Trump noticed. He ordered to restore data sharing, intelligence data sharing immediately after Russian strike, but it was too late. The damage to the USA was done, the damage to Trump's image was done, and people were killed. Then there was Donald Trump calling Putin one more time on March 18th, where Putin started, well, sort of flexing his muscles for the first time since Donald Trump became the president. Donald Trump proposed a ceasefire, asked for a ceasefire, and Putin agreed only for a limited ceasefire, for the energy infrastructure ceasefire, and immediately executed a strike after. Another slap in the face. Then there were numerous visits of Trump's representative Stephen Witkov to Moscow and Putin's man Dmitriev visit to Washington. And Witkov just produced Putin's appeasement galore, having pleasure in meeting Vladimir Putin and showing it to the world publicly. Shaking his hand, smiling, having friendly conversations and things like that. And now, to top it off, Donald Trump just admitted his appeasing Vladimir Putin approach. He just basically admitted he has been appeasing. He said that Vladimir Putin already made great concession to Ukraine. And when a reporter asked him what the concession was, Donald Trump answered, the concession is that Putin didn't take entire Ukraine. To me, that is publicly announcing, yes, we are afraid he would go further. We are thankful to him that he hasn't taken all Ukraine, and he's done enough already by not taking all Ukraine. Now, perhaps I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments, okay? Because to me, that just seems like admitting that you are appeasing Vladimir. And it gets worse, okay? Right now, as I speak, Stephen Witkov and his wife Lauren visiting Moscow, talking to Dmitriev, Vladimir Putin. Well, they talked today, and now they're strolling Moscow's Arbat Street, the walking promenade. Check this out. A typical Friday in Moscow. Donald Trump's special envoy Stephen Witkov and his wife Lauren walk along the Arbat Street with Putin's favorite negotiator Kirill Dmitriev, with his wife Natasha, the best girlfriend of one of Vladimir Putin's daughters. Check this out again. Natasha, his wife, is easily recognized by her Birkin bag and Dolce & Gabbana sneakers. There are 8 bodyguards with them, and I'm pretty sure there are many others around. They buy matryoshka dolls, pose for quick drawings, and having a nice stroll. Nice and friendly visit. Joy everywhere in the air. And look at this right now. It says RT in Russian. This is televised by RT to the world. So everyone in the world knows Stephen Witkov is in Russia having a good time. Friends with Russia. Everything's normal. Russia is back. Business as usual. Victory. It's nothing but the victory. Now, I have seen plenty to understand what's going on between Russia and the USA. I know enough to forecast, finally, and I want to try to answer this question that we are all asking. Is the end of the war near? In the short run, and in the long run. Okay, I'll break my answer into two parts. In the short run, every single step Donald Trump has taken so far is Putin's victory. Every single step has confirmed Putin's victory. Vladimir Putin is having the best time, the best spring since he has invaded Ukraine. Donald Trump hasn't spoken to Vladimir Putin from the position of strength. Instead, he has spoken from the position of appeasement and asking. The president of the USA, the strongest country in the world, with the mightiest army, the strongest financial system, and soft power that spreads all over the world, has been appeasing Putin. Putin does not need to stop the war any longer. He needed that before, but not anymore. Putin now instead has something to show for invading Ukraine, razing Ukrainian cities, killing both Ukrainians, so many people, both Ukrainians and Russians. He has a victory in his hands. Donald Trump calling him his victory. Stephen Witkov strolling Arbat Street, nice, friendly matter with his wife, meeting Dmitriev and his wife. That's a victory. Donald Trump announcing to the world that Russian President Vladimir Putin and him, Donald Trump, will be deciding the fate of the Middle East. He did so. He announced to the world that's Putin's victory. Donald Trump has handed him the victory. Vladimir Zelensky being kicked out of the White House, oh, that's a magnificent victory. Donald Trump calling Vladimir Putin and negotiating, oh boy. Making offers in publicly announcing that the United States is considering future commercial relations, restoring commercial relations with Russia. That's a victory. Donald Trump returning to American diplomats or discussing returning American diplomats to Moscow is a victory. Donald Trump offering the ceasefire and getting snubbed by Russian rockets is a victory. Couple days ago, Russia executed the largest airstrike, missile strike on Kiev. And Donald Trump asking Vladimir Putin to stop, tweeting, saying, Vladimir, stop, you're not making things any easier. That's Putin's victory. There are so many victories that Donald Trump, and I'm pretty sure he's done that unwillingly. Okay, I cannot imagine that the US president is somehow working for Russia, for Vladimir Putin, cooperating. No, I don't think that's true. Okay, mark my words. I think Donald Trump is independent and he's the president of the American people. Okay, that's it, full stop. Okay, no conspiracy theories there. But unwillingly, he has handed Vladimir Putin so many victories. Okay. Vladimir Putin is not unshakable anymore. He's not a pariah, and Russia is not a pariah state because the United States is talking to Russia. The relations have been restored. American representatives smiling at Putin, shaking his hand, talking to him, walking around streets of Moscow buying matryoshkas, not just as a diplomat, but with his wife. Friendly family visit to Moscow, having a good time. Vladimir Putin is back with a bang. Vladimir Putin has withstood all the pressure that the world was applying on him for 3 years, and he's back. He's back into the geopolitics. And the United States, instead of pressuring Russia, is pressuring Ukraine, kicking out Ukrainian president from the White House. Russian propaganda for 3 years were saying that Russia was not in war with Ukraine, but instead it was a proxy war with the collective West led by the USA. The USA was the bad guy. The USA were the Satanists. The USA were waging the war on Russia, trying to take Russia's sovereignty, okay? The bad guys were led by the USA. And now that proxy war is over and won by Russia. Because this symbolic move, when the USA, who Russian propaganda were saying owned Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian government, Zelensky and his office were puppets of the USA, now the masters kicked Zelensky out. That is a symbol. That is the victory, okay? The USA is not the master of Ukraine any longer. Russia now has something to show. It's been worthwhile fighting for that, okay? And that's what they have been saying in the Russian media right now for weeks. They have been selling this as a victory to Russian people already. Vladimir Putin now will not stop the war. He will continue. He will sell Russians this situation as victory and perhaps the stop of the special military operation. That's how he and Russian state calls the war. He will do that very soon. I believe it will be done on May 9th, 2 weeks from now. Mark my words. We will return to them soon. And soon after, Vladimir Putin will change the direction that Russia is headed towards. From a regular society, he will change Russia to the military society. He is going to officially militarize Russia. He does not need to stop the war. He just needs to change Russian society. Russian economy is in big trouble. It's falling apart. It's really impossible to sustain normal life, normal society in a normal situation. Russian government cannot sustain the economy in this way of living. Vladimir Putin cannot afford to stop the war because he will have to zero in on domestic economic problems. He will have to explain why Russian people are living so much worse. He will be forced to ask many uncomfortable questions. And he doesn't want that. There is no need. He will have to explain the damage that has been done to Russia. It's irreversible. It's really hard to fix now. He will have to be managing Russian economy. Instead of doing that, instead of facing these difficulties, political difficulties for him, instead of facing these political groups, perhaps the uprisings, instead of all that, he will put the country onto the military tracks. And he will sell Russians this idea that, yes, Russia is in trouble, the economy is in trouble. Yes, things will get worse. Yes, sacrifices will have to be made, but it's all worth it because, look, Russia is surrounded by the enemies. The United States has turned out to be not the worst guy, okay? Europe is the enemy now. Europe was hiding in the shadows for quite some time, but it has come forward finally. Neo-Nazis, neo-fascists, Satanists, they are the source of all problems. And you see, even mighty powerful Donald Trump has been trying to step in and to negotiate peace, but he has failed because the Europeans did not allow him. There is a very powerful force working even against Donald Trump. He can't, take this force down. That's neoliberals, the new liberal world elite. This mighty powerful group, and even the US president is defenseless and helpless against them. So yes, Russian people, um, the economy has taken a huge hit. Military might of Russia is probably weakened now by 3 years of the military actions, needs to be built up, of course, and a sacrifice will have to be made by people. But it's not the fault of Russia. It's not my fault. It's not Putin's fault, he will say. We are forced. We are forced by the evil forces around us. Okay? And then he will sell Russians this idea that Russia is surrounded by enemies and they will take it, they will buy it. They will buy it. And they're ready to suffer because Russian people are professional sufferers. And they will do everything that Vladimir Putin will tell them because his words will be backed up by the best propaganda in the world, Russian propaganda. Russian people will be brainwashed even more, and these ideas will be engineered and placed into their minds, and Russians will continue. Russians will continue. Now, that's the short run, the short term. And the war with Ukraine will continue, albeit it will be a not very active war. Okay, I think that the front lines will be where they are at right now, and Russia will not be able to move forward because it just can't. There will be airstrikes, and pretty much Russians will be doing what they have been doing in the last 6 months or so. Definitely, they will be using many more people, and most likely those people will not be paid any longer, but some kind of a light mobilization will be announced as a necessity, of course. And of course, Putin will be forced, he will sell this idea to Russian people that he will be forced to announce the mobilization. But, there will be much more fresh meat in the front lines. I don't know the details of what's going to happen. The small little details, words, ideas. But I see the direction. I see the big picture. And I want to mark my words. Please remember what I'm saying right now. We'll revisit in a few weeks. The war will slow down and continue for perhaps years. Perhaps for a very long time. This is what I think will happen in the short term, in the short run. And now, in the long run. I think the war of Russia and Ukraine will eventually end. But it will end when the world will be reset and reformatted, and the countries will come up with a new security deal, just like they did after World War II. The Bretton Woods agreements, Bretton Woods Accords, remember that? Right now, we are seeing the very early stages of this great reset. I call it the Great Reset, and it's coming from the USA. The USA is resetting itself. It's resetting its economy for some reason that I don't understand, and it's resetting its role in the world as the global leader, the military leader, the economic leader, the financial leader. I don't know what will follow after that. I don't think anyone knows at this point because the events unfold so fast and they're so unpredictable. And again, the decisions are made by people who are transactional. Okay, there is no long-term strategy. I'm seeing the trend. I'm seeing the big picture again. I'm seeing that something big and sinister has started. This is a very long, a very massively complicated process, and it will end in the New Deal. Most powers in the world will come together and they will come to some kind of agreement. And again, I don't know what that deal will be, But as soon as all sides, all countries, all new blocks, military blocks, political, economical blocks, they agree on the new rules, they accept the new rules of the game, then immediately the war of Russia and Ukraine will end. And there will be many political players, that I know for sure. The new ones emerge, the new blocks, the new groups, the new alliances will be formed, and they're going to be military alliances. We're seeing it happening right now. NATO is weakening, and European countries are getting together. They're thinking of creating a new alliance just for themselves to defend themselves from Russia when Russia attacks them. We are seeing the new economic alliances in the making. China is negotiating with Europe, and if they come to some kind of a agreement, that's going to be mighty powerful alliance, mighty powerful union. Okay, but again, we can be sure that this will be a very long process. My bet is from 10 to 15 years. So this is what I think about the end of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. I think the war will certainly end by 2035, perhaps 2040. And that's a very sad and bad news, and I sure hope that I am wrong. If something miraculous happens and the peace, real peace, where Ukraine is satisfied with that peace agreement, appears, comes into existence, then I'll be happy. I'll be happy to admit that I was a fool, and I'll revisit and review this video, okay? But so far, that's my analysis and forecast. We will see much turbulence in the upcoming years. Again, we'll see new political, economic, military alliances. We will see changes. And another change that I am pretty sure will happen is that the United States will not play the role it has been playing for the past 50 years or so, unfortunately. But again, I can be wrong, and I will be very happy if I'm wrong. We'll definitely see new political leaders. We will see big changes. And Russia will be changing too, very fast. If you think that you have seen changes already, wait until you see changes in 2025 and 2026. And by the way, yesterday I made a live stream and a video about how the first bank is being bailed out, the number 2 in Russia, second largest bank, is being bailed out by Russian state. And I said that yesterday. 4 more banks are being bailed out right now, the following day. That's how fast things are changing in Russia. Okay? I would like to remind you that it's important to stay informed. It's important to know what's happening. And I'm helping to make that happen. Every day I select 9 news that I find important and make them available to patrons of Inside Russia at patreon.com. 9 news every day, 6 days a week, 54 news every week. I call it Formula 54. I feel it helps those who are interested to know what's happening in Russia and with Russia, to find the information that you will not find anywhere in the mainstream media, okay? Consider checking this out. I will have a link posted in the description of this video and in the pinned comment. Check it out. Meanwhile, I see the war going on for a long time. I see Vladimir Putin coming out on top in a short run. I see the world changing a great deal. I see peace only in the future. Time will tell if I'm right or wrong. Carthago delenda est.